Good morning. I'm Judge Frank Caprio. In nearly 4 decades on this bench, I believed I had witnessed every shade of human weakness, every excuse dressed up as innocence, every apology that came a moment too late. I've seen people crumble under pressure, and I've seen others rise with dignity when everything was against them. But nothing prepared me for what walked into my courtroom on a cold Tuesday morning. Because that day, the law itself wasn't just being tested, it was being challenged, mocked, and almost bought. Imagine a man who doesn't just hold power, but believes he is power. A man who looks at the scales of justice not as a symbol of fairness, but as a transaction waiting to happen. That man stood in front of me, and with a calm face and a heart untouched by consequence, he said something I will never forget. "Judge, you don't understand. I own this city." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy. It was loud. It was the kind of silence that makes you realize something deeply wrong has just entered the room. October 24th, 2024. Outside, the city of Providence carried on as usual. Cool air, busy streets, ordinary lives. But inside Courtroom 4B, the atmosphere was suffocating. The benches weren't filled with everyday citizens. They were filled with cameras, investigators, political operatives, people who understood that this wasn't just another case, this was a moment. The case, the city of Providence versus Mayor Richard Sterling. For 12 years, Sterling had been untouchable. His face was everywhere. His name was carved into buildings, bridges, and promises. He walked like a man who believed the ground itself owed him respect. 64 years old, silver hair, impeccable suit, perfect image. But behind that image was a man now standing accused. On September 12th at 1:15 in the morning, his black SUV tore through a residential school zone at 85 miles per hour, a zone where the speed limit was 20, a zone where children walk every morning. He didn't slow down, he didn't stop. He ran 3 red lights, nearly killed a delivery driver, and when finally stopped, he didn't apologize, he didn't explain. He rolled down his window, blew cigar smoke into a young officer's face, and handed over his mayoral pin. "Do you know who I am?" he said. "This car doesn't stop for red lights. This car owns the road." As I looked at him across the bench, I didn't just see a defendant. I saw something more dangerous, a man who had forgotten what it meant to be equal, a man who believed the law applied to others but not to him. Power, you see, is a dangerous thing. Given too much for too long, it doesn't just change a man, it reveals him. "Mr. Sterling," I began, my voice steady but firm, "you are charged with reckless endangerment, felony speeding, abuse of public office." I paused. "How do you plead?" He didn't even stand properly. He leaned, relaxed, smirking, as if this was a minor inconvenience, as if this courtroom was just another room he controlled. "Judge Caprio," he said slowly, "let's not waste time. I've built this city. I fund this court." Then he leaned in slightly. "And I think it's time we discuss who's really in charge." That was the moment. Not just arrogance, but open defiance. Not just confidence, but corruption speaking out loud. I removed my glasses slowly. "Let the record reflect," I said, "that the defendant is suggesting ownership over public safety, public roads, and the legal system itself." He laughed, actually laughed, because in his world, this was normal. Then the footage played. The courtroom watched. The speeding, the lights, the confrontation. His voice echoed through the speakers. "You're lucky I don't have you fired. Tell your captain Richard Sterling is moving." And suddenly, the performance began to crack. But the real turning point came when someone entered the room. Not a politician, not a lawyer, but a citizen. "Martha Gable," I called, a woman in her 70s, shaking hands, wooden cane, 45 years in the same neighborhood. She walked slowly, but carried more truth than anyone in that room. "I heard the engine," she said softly. "It sounded like a plane." I stepped back, just in time. "My dog hasn't been the same since." Then she looked up, straight at the mayor. "I voted for you. And that night, I realized I didn't matter to you." The room held its breath. But Sterling, he checked his watch. whispered to his lawyer, "Is this really necessary?" That's when it became clear. This wasn't just arrogance. It was emptiness, a complete disconnect from humanity. And then, he made the mistake that ended everything. He walked toward the bench, ignored warnings, leaned in, lowered his voice. "Let's be realistic, Judge," he said. "You have a pension. I have influence. A donation can make this disappear. A bribe, in open court, in front of cameras, without hesitation. That's when the mask finally shattered. Let the record show," I said calmly. "The defendant has now added attempted judicial bribery to his charges." His face changed. Color drained. Confidence collapsed. Reality arrived. But I wasn't finished, because just minutes before entering that courtroom, I had received a file. "Mr. Sterling," I said, opening the folder, "the funds you offered, they're not yours. They come from public programs, school lunches, park maintenance." Silence, pure silence. "You didn't build this city," I continued. "You drained it. You didn't lead, you took." That was the moment everything ended. Not just his case, his career, his legacy, and then judgment. On all charges, guilty. Each word hit like thunder. 1 year in county jail, $50,000 fine, immediate removal from office. "You are no longer mayor." The room didn't cheer, it froze, because they had just witnessed something rare. Not power winning, but justice. As the handcuffs clicked, the man who claimed to own the city finally understood something simple. He never owned it. He was just passing through it. 3 months later, the city began to heal, investigations spread, more officials fell, because corruption never stands alone. And Martha Gable? She wrote me a letter. "I finally feel seen," she said. "That is why the law exists. Not for power, not for politics, but for people. So remember this: no title is greater than accountability, no power is greater than truth, and no one is above the law." What does justice mean to you? Because in the end, a city isn't owned by one man. It belongs to those who protect it, respect it, and stand up when it matters most.